members, welcome to the Current Wine Hour. My name is Lorna Kiama, the Food and Beverage Manager. This is our third episode, and with us today we are honored to have Mukami, who is our wine expert. Mukami will be taking us through the journey of South African wines. Karibuni, and hope to enjoy yourself.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Current Wine Hour. I'm Mukami. I'm very happy that you could join us this evening. I'm really looking forward to the wines that we have today. They're from South Africa this time, which is a big change from, New Zealand, Australia, and Spain. For the next two episodes, we're going to focus on the Cape Wine region. So we're going to look at Rupert and Rothschild this week. Then next week is a surprise. You should tune in and watch what vineyards we go to. So for this episode, we're going to look at the terroir, the climate of South Africa, look at the winemaking history, and look at what characteristics of this vineyard give their wines a very prestigious name and create such amazing and complex characteristics in the glass that when this wine goes to awards, it just stays winning all sorts of points and getting international recognition. It'll be fun, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, so South Africa. Most people who I speak to who've gone wine tasting tell me, yeah, I've been to South Africa, I went wine tasting here and there, which is really encouraging because I remember when I first got into wine, like no one was speaking to me about traveling the Cape wine route or really just leaving the country to go and explore wine and the culture. So I'm really encouraged and happy to know that more people like yourself are getting into the movement. So South Africa's wine scene is very diverse, given that the country in itself has such extremes between like the sea, the hills, the mountainside, the rivers. So depending on what ward, which is like an appellation you are in or you taste wine from, the kind of wine you'll experience and sort of the flavors and textures you'll have in your glass really express to you that this country is incredibly beautiful and has a lot of amazing geological properties, and that is so, I find it very interesting that is sort of translated into, let's say I have a Sauvignon Blanc from Stellenbosch, I have one from Elgin, I have one from Franschhoek, I have one from Wellington. It might be the same grape, but just what it tastes like is completely different, and I think that's very exciting. So if you have a chance to go to South Africa, I would recommend that you sort of explore the same varietal in different regions and just take notes. And when you reflect and look at what you've written, you might be surprised that one simple grape can express such different complex flavors and carry itself incredibly and magnificently according to just where it's grown. We're going to be exploring wines from a very prestigious winery, the Rupert and Rothschild collection. So Rupert and Rothschild are the names of people. So it was formed by two friends who were incredibly wealthy and just really interested in creating international quality and standard of wine from South Africa, such that when people have this wine in France, because one of the people, the Rothschild family is French, when they have it in Europe, you might think that it's from Bordeaux perhaps. So a lot of thought, for me, that says a lot of thought and compassion and effort went into developing like the brand, cultivating the land, selecting which varietals to grow, selecting which type. So you might have a Sauvignon Blanc, but then there's different quote unquote types. Like I have a mango tree, but there's a mango tree from the coast, there's one from Embu, there's one from, I don't know, even Kajiado might have mango. So it's one thing, but just the cultivar, that's the word, the cultivar is very different. So the Rupert family is South African. They already had two other wineries in South Africa, which are top tier, incredible, really, really fancy and makes really good wines. And the Rothschilds are French with a history of winemaking within themselves and also like a passion and curiosity for the finer things in life. Yes, so that's all the history I will throw at you today. So this vineyard sits in Franschhoek Wine Valley, which is a very famous wine valley. I could almost bet that some of the wines that you've had has come from that region. It sits at the base of the Simonsberg Hills. And right, so hills, right? and Franschhoek is a valley. So part of their vines sit on the hill, which means that they, for lack of a better word, they're closer to the sun, so that affects their ripening season. And also that this is South Africa, what helps the vines grow and develop is that they get very cool winds from the south, coming from Antarctic. So there's always like a cool, refreshing breeze to the vineyard, but at the same time, there's enough light for the grapes to grow and develop naturally, and I'd argue almost better than other wine growing regions in South Africa. Fun fact: all the grapes in this vineyard are handpicked, so that's a little bit more like caring and affection and like personality to the wines that they make. And given that this vineyard sits in the Cape Winelands, it is irrigated. As we all know, Cape Town had some difficulty with water rationing and shortages. So when it came to this vineyard and plenty others that we will explore over the coming weeks, there's a note that in so much that this is wine and it takes water to grow and cultivate the grapes, they were also very strict in how they use the water just to remain sustainable and to make sure that they're not overusing the limited resource that they have. So I hope with those few details you sort of have a broader understanding of the history of the vineyard, why, like the branding, the sort of situation that it sits in, and you could visualize if you had a vineyard in a valley, what it would look like. So let's taste the wine. First up, we have 100% Chardonnay. It is the Rupert and Rothschild Baroness Nadine, which is named after one of the proprietors' wives. It's, from the moment I put it in the glass, it has this amazing smell of like almonds and brioche, and like the nougat, that chewy bit of a Toblerone chocolate. It's a very, very bright yellow wine, and it just eludes luxury. I don't know if that's because of like the winemaking style and all the little bits and little hints of personality that goes into making the wine, or perhaps it's the aging, that because most bottles of wine oak for a couple of months. But this is really, when I smell it, it just says luxurious Chardonnay. Even looking at it now, it's still so bright and like inviting, and it tells you might think this is from France, so that tells you how good this wine is. So let's taste it. This is velvet, guys. It's super velvet. It tastes like honeydew and brioche and like, vanilla, a little bit of spice, and also like lemon curd is the aftertaste on this wine. It has like a short medium finish, but for what it's worth, I'd say this is really a true expression of what a Chardonnay should be. And if you ever at the club, I do recommend that you try this bottle, because you will not be disappointed in it. Alright, so that was really nice. So now let's get into their red wine. This is a Bordeaux blend made of 50% Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon and some little bit of Cabernet Franc. So I opened it earlier so it can decant, and it's been open for, I want to say, an hour. So I'm sure by now all the amazing flavors will have sort of gone back into the wine, and it'll be breathing, and all the fruitiness will be a lot more easier to taste now than had I had it without decanting it. So this wine is like a burgundy color. It's a little bit, it's dark, which means that when you have a glass of wine next time, just like tilt it over and then put your hand through. If you can see your fingers clearly, then it's not that dark, and the more quote-unquote dark the wine is, the less you will see your fingers. So this one, I would say it's like you can see your fingers, but not as much as if it was, for example, a Cabernet Sauvignon on its own. So it's sort of spicy on the nose. I would say that's the Cabernet Sauvignon coming through, but also has a little bit of sweetness and buttery, caramelly on the nose as well. So let's taste it and see how it goes. So the first thing that hits you is like how do I say this, like hazelnuts and a little bit of like dried fruit, like what you'd find in a black forest cake. It's very chocolatey, so I'd say have this with a dessert or like a pudding, but the tannins aren't super strong. It has like a sweetest finish, which I am very surprised about. I did not expect that. And it's not as mouth-filly, velvety as this Chardonnay we had earlier. Yeah. So although the tannins on this aren't very strong, there's still plenty of depth once you taste it and once you have enjoyed it. It's sort of carries through what a Bordeaux blend should be, in that it's complex but it's not intimidating. And I'm very happy that I got to try this wine today. Thank you so much for exploring Rupert and Rothschild wines with me. I hope you've learned some fun facts about South Africa and that I've made this bottle less intimidating for you, and that you're inspired to try it when you're here at the club next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and now I'd like to invite Nona to say a few comments.
How amazing, Mukami. Thank you so much for taking us through the journey of the South African wines. I hope you've learned something as well, you members. Please join us in our social media, on our social hashtag, which is Karen Wine Hour. We'll be more than happy to take your suggestions and your comments. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode. Asante sana, Mukami.
Thank you.